Yeah, well, that man is in his 50s. He had to be rescued from one of the apartments at this apartment fire. We know about 32 apartments are affected, and roughly 40 people are being assisted by the Red Cross right now. Fire investigators are still on scene trying to determine what caused this fire, but it was first reported around 3 o'clock this morning at the Park Avenue Place apartments off of East 30th Street. Crews arrived. They found flames coming out of the second floor, and like you mentioned, a man in his 50s was rescued and taken to Displacing Medical Center with critical injuries. The fire is now under control, but crews are keeping an eye out for hot spots. And once again, fire crews still trying to figure out what caused this fire, but we know about 40 people are displaced. Back to you. Yeah, Lauren, take a look at this damage. Man, there's about 40 people, like you said, displaced from this fire. Roughly 12 apartment units are affected. Right now, we still don't know what caused this fire, but it was first reported just around 3 o'clock this morning at the Park Avenue Place apartments off of East 30th Street. When crews arrived here, they found flames coming out of a second floor apartment. We do know a man in his 50s had to be rescued from inside and taken to Displacing Medical Center with critical injuries. Obviously, the fire is under control, and AFD is getting ready to clear the scene here. So fire investigators still trying to figure out what caused this fire, but 32 units are affected. About 40 people are getting help from the Red Cross this morning. And AFD just released some new information saying that the damage of the fire, roughly about $300,000. Once again, we still don't know what caused it, but you can see the damage is quite extensive. Back to you in the studio. Yeah, Amanda, that man had to be rescued from the second floor of this complex. We know there are roughly 32 units here. All of them are affected. About 40 people are displaced. However, AFD wanted to clarify that a good majority of the people that live here are not here or were not here when the fire started because of spring break. A majority of them are students, but the fire was first reported just around 2:30 this morning at the Park Avenue Place apartments off of East 30th Street. You can see the damage is quite extensive. A good majority of this complex is burned. There's also a car here that suffered some damage, but crews were able to get the fire out pretty quickly. A man in his 50s had to be rescued and was taken to Displacing Medical Center with critical injuries. Right now, we just got one crew still on scene working to find out the cause of this fire, as the cause remains under investigation. But Austin Fire tell us that they did have working smoke alarms here, and that's what notified a lot of these people.
We just remind people that, yeah, we changed times. Always take the time to check your smoke alarms, change the batteries if you need to. And several people, again, were alerted to the fire this morning, an early morning fire, 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning fire because of those working smoke alarms.
The fire caused about $300,000 worth of damage. Once again, still don't know what caused this fire, but the Red Cross is helping out with those displaced residents. Back to you in the studio. Hey, yeah, guys, look at the damage caused from this fire. About $300,000 worth of damage. We've got one crew with AFD still here on scene trying to figure out what caused this fire, but crews first responded just around 2:30 this morning at this apartment complex. There's roughly 32 units here. All of them are affected and 40 residents are displaced. However, a good portion of those people were not here when the fire started because it is spring break. We spoke to one of those residents who heard the smoke alarm go off, and he kind of describes to us what he had to do next. One resident in his 50s is in critical condition this morning. He had to be rescued out of his apartment unit. He was taken to the hospital, and again, he's in critical condition. No other injuries have been reported. Back to you in the studio. Yeah, that man was trapped inside and had to be rescued. Like you guys mentioned, he's in critical condition and he had to be transported to the hospital. But just take a look at this damage. It's quite extensive. 40 people are displaced and getting help from the Red Cross. Thankfully, not everyone that lives in the complex was here when the fire broke out because of spring break. A majority of the people who live here are students over at UT. The Austin Fire Department says this fire started just before 3 o'clock this morning. This is near the north campus of UT Austin. Crews arrived to find flames coming out of the second floor apartment. Now, it didn't take firefighters very long to get the fire under control, but crews are still here on scene just trying to manage it. Look out for any hot spots. The blaze damaged 2 apartments and 10 other units have smoke and water damage. The complex has a total of 32 units and no one is allowed back inside. As I mentioned, a lot of these residents are students, so UT Austin just put out a tweet saying that if anyone impacted or displaced by this fire needs some assistance, well, they gave out a number to contact. It's to be connected with the Student Emergency Services. That number is 512-471-5017. Right now, we still don't know the cause of this fire, but we do know it caused about $300,000 worth of damage. 40 people are displaced and getting help from the Red Cross. Thankfully, not everyone that lives in the complex was here when the fire broke out because of spring break. The Austin Fire Department says it started just before 3 at the Park Avenue Place Apartments on East 30th Street. This is near the north campus of UT Austin. Crews arrived to find flames coming out of the second floor apartment. A man in his 50s was rescued and taken to Delstein Medical Center with critical injuries. It didn't take firefighters very long to get the fire under control, but crews stayed on scene several hours later to keep an eye out for any hot spots. The blaze damaged 2 apartments and 10 other units have smoke and water damage. The complex has a total of 32 units and no one is allowed back inside. We spoke with a UT Austin student who lives here. He walks us through how he was able to escape.
I started hearing shouting, someone saying, "Help, I need help, it's a fire." I started freaking out at that moment. Walked outside my door, saw tons of smoke coming from the door over there, and then ran back in my apartment, got my fire extinguisher and my little canister I have of fire extinguisher liquid, and then ran back out. By that time, I had seen like the orange flames come up from the door, and I knew the fire extinguisher couldn't do anything, so I just started running out.
AFD says the fire caused about $300,000 worth of damage. Reporting in North Austin, Jacqueline Sarkeesian, Fox 7 Austin News.